Welcome, everyone, to the Belmont Stakes edition of the It's Official podcast. He's Jeff Siegel. I'm Jeremy Plonk from First Bet and Express Bet. Great to have everybody back as we do each and every Tuesday. And a special welcome to those of you in the first Belmont Stakes wager guide. Hopefully you're accessing all the handicappers across the first family and all the data and trends and everything we've got set up for you, workout videos towards the Belmont Stakes. This year, Jeff, at Saratoga, I'm sure we're going to mess up at some point and say it's a mile and a half. And at some point we're going to say at Belmont Park. But over the next 40 minutes, we're going to try to keep it straight. We're at Saratoga. We're going a mile and a quarter. And there's a lot of other changes to this year's Belmont Stakes than just, the distance and the venue. We've got a rubber match here with the Derby winner and the Preakness winner. They haven't met each other, but they're going to meet in the final leg of the Triple Crown and see if somebody can finally win two in a row. We haven't had a horse win two in the Triple Crown sequence since Justify in 2018.
I was thinking about racing or staging the Belmont, not at Belmont Park. I remember this is how far I go back. Okay. This is that far back. I remember watching the Belmont Stakes in the mid 60s.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know it was held at Aqueduct. And the reason why it was held at Aqueduct, I think it was 65, 66, and 67, was that they were in the process of rebuilding Belmont Park. They did a grandstand and they had that big, construction that took them 3 years. So they had to run the Belmont Stakes at Aqueduct. Well, how old am I? They've already crashed that building down now.
You've outlived the building at Belmont.
I've seen both times. I've been around for both times. That was 60 years ago, or 59, I think. So anyway, it is at Saratoga. But I
saw it if you'd have told me you saw it at Morris Park back in the day, before the Belmont Park was even built, then I would have thought, man, you're old, but you're not that old.
Exactly. Well, did you know that Lucille Ball, Lucy, she was also a model in her younger days, and she changed her model name to Lucy Belmont. That was her name. That was her modeling name because she went to Belmont once and loved it so much that I'm going to name myself after the track. So it's got a lot of history. I think it was actually the stakes race she was naming itself after. Anyway, bottom line is, and of course, her husband, Desi Arnaz, there's a street that runs alongside Del Mar because he always went to go to Del Mar. We're getting off track because I think that people really want to know who we like in the Belmont. And
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Yeah.
We'll get into it. But we're going to tell you what our reasons for liking it. Then we're going to tell you who we actually like. Mm-hmm. I've got a shorter price horse. You've got a good price chance.
Yeah.
So maybe we can hook up together and crush this exacta.
I don't dislike your horse, so there's a very good possibility we could be using our horses in tandem. Okay. We'll get to those topics as we go through the 5 on the rundown this week on It's Official. It's the Belmont Stakes preview. And we start off by talking about the draw, which took place yesterday in Saratoga Springs. The winners and losers from the post-position draw, a field of 10. We thought maybe 11. Tuscan Gold was kept out of the entry box by trainer Chad Brown. Fear not for Chad. He has Sierra Leone. And the old adage, why run two when one will do, maybe applies here. He's got the favorite in David Aragona's morning line at 9-5. I also thought 9-5 seemed like the right price on Sierra Leone. Jeff, in this field of 10, any winners or losers from the post draw, you think?
Well, I actually liked the draw for Mindframe. And the reason I do that is because he's obviously very talented, but he's never had dirt in his face. And if he were drawn inside and he didn't break a sharp, then he'd get all that kickback, which he may or may not like. But you don't have to worry about that here. You're outside. There's not that much speed in the race. There's a couple of them, obviously Seize the Gray, who I thought was a winner as well because he's going to bust out there and go, might as well do it from the rail. So he'll show speed from the rail. I think that was good. And then I mentioned Mindframe because he'll be outside, no kickback, can kind of draft over and get into a good stocking position outside. That will be good for him if he doesn't make the lead, which I don't think he will because I don't think they're going to gun him out of there. So I think those two are good. Everybody else, I think, doesn't really have any complaints. Sierra Leone, probably that, you might have made a case that maybe they would want to draw inside and maybe save ground for a change, but he's going to drop back anyway, I would think. So if you look at this listing, I don't think anybody has any excuses here, do you?
No, I don't see any big problems there. And I don't see a lot of problematic horses that you want to kind of avoid. One thing I'll just throw out there, and I thought it was a underplayed element of the Derby start where it was the 2-hole that day for Sierra Leone. And because of the turf course and the big gap, he wasn't anywhere near the crowd. And you remember at Keeneland how he balked from the crowd and didn't want to load on the outside of the starting gate. The 2-hole was really good because he had nothing around him and he walked right into the gate like a perfect gentleman. Maybe his gate habits are completely gone now, but now with the 9-hole and starting at the top of the stretch at Saratoga and the big crowd that's going to be there, he's going to see those people again, at least this time when it comes time to load in the starting gate for the Derby. We'll see. If you see a little balk at trying to go into the starting gate, then that's not a good sign, obviously, for Sierra Leone. We saw that flare up, but he still won nicely at Keeneland. So just a little mind your manners kind of tidbit to it. I think the outside will be a bit more challenge for him actually pre-race than it was in the Kentucky Derby. But the trip was obviously tougher from the 2-hole in the Kentucky Derby most years. So I think being out in the 9-hole for his running style will work fine. They're going to drop to the back, and we'll talk about the pace in just a moment. But winners and losers from the post position draw, I don't think there's a whole lot there. And when you look at the post position stats, Jeff, these are from BetMix going back to 2012 as far as we could in that database. Over the last 11 years, it's only been 28 mile-and-a-quarter dirt races run at Saratoga. Of those 28, only 8 of them had 10 or more starters in the field. So we're not used to seeing big fields like this. There was a winner out of the 11-hole for an 8% win rate for horses 10 and above. Nobody's won out of the 9-hole, but there hasn't been a ton of races with 9 horses entered in them. I wouldn't look at that and say, oh my God, we can't touch Sierra Leone because nobody's won out of the 9-hole. These trends, stats to these with a small sample size and nothing remarkable really standing out to me. Who knows the coincidences with the 2 horses and what the particular odds were. Those runners could have dive deeper into that in BetMix if you'd like, but I don't think anybody's advantaged by the post, and I don't think anybody's disadvantaged here.
Yeah, I mean, if the only way to really make this more statistically relevant is if you went back and found and charted the winners and what their odds were and what their probability of winning going into the race was, and compared to how many races that post actually won. It's not worth the effort, though, I don't think.
Not for a 28 race sample, and that's the thing.
Right.
You know, it's like
exactly. And you just never know. I'm not any kind of statistician, but I do know that the more you have into the pool there to draw from, the more likely you will have something that's relevant. But as you pointed out, so few races.
And of the mile-and-a-quarters, you're talking about the Alabama Grade 1. You're talking about the Travers, a Grade 1, and the Jockey Club Gold Cup, which has moved there in recent years, part of that as well. So these are really good horses. Really good horses are not going to get impacted by the post position so much with a long run into the first turn. A 1.125 oval at Saratoga. So your 1.125 races that start closer to the first turn, then you kind of want to lean to the inside in speed there at the Spa. But at a 1.25, if you got another 220 yards to the race, and it's all on the front end, right? The gate's 220 yards farther back from the finish line than it is in a 1.125 race. And so they have plenty of time to get over, get position. And I don't think post is going to be any issue in this. Much ado about nothing. I think if you're trying to break this one down based on where the horses drew in the particular field. Right. Now let's talk about the second topic, and that's the morning works. Who is kind of tipping their hand coming in to this year's Belmont Stakes? We've seen a lot of the works want to send you to XBTV. Also, that wager guide that we've got for you from First has plenty of workout information and video in there that you can take a look at. Jeff and I are going to look at a couple of horses of repute in here. The morning line favorite, Sierra Leone. This is a workout from the previous week on May the 25th at Saratoga, working in company with Domestic Product, a very good runner there, Tampa Bay Derby type for trainer Chad Brown. And inside is Sierra Leone in this particular work, Jeff. He's had trouble bearing in his races. Chad Brown's going to change the bit, which is the steering mechanism in the horse's mouth, to try to change things up, and also going to change the rider here to Flavian Pratt, replacing Tyler Gaffleone after the controversial ride in the Kentucky Derby, but certainly no controversy to his effort in trying to get the victory for Sierra Leone. What do you make of what you're seeing in the work?
I liked it a lot. I mean, he's into the bridle. He's not doing anything weird on the rail. I'm sure he was working inside by design. And I would suspect that if the opportunity presents itself, I think Chad Brown will probably tell Pratt, look, if you want to try to save ground and be closer to the rail, we worked him from the inside. He was very comfortable there. He doesn't show any design or any willingness to try to lug in. I love the work. I really did. You don't have to go fast. We know he can go fast if he wants to, but he's galloping out very nicely, not being asked. Again, very eager. This tells me that Sierra Leone missed the Preakness by design. I just think he's ready to unload. Gun to my head, if I had to pick one to be the most likely winner, I think it would be him, even though I'm not crazy about having to depend on a deep closer. But did you know that if you look at the form, this horse, by all rights, should be undefeated? He's got 3 wins, 2 seconds. Both of the seconds were by a nose. And both races, he cost himself the race. He cost himself the race. He's a pretty good horse, I'm telling you. And I don't think he's trained any better than what I just saw. So tough colt.
And part of his own demise is that front left paddling action. He's not put together 100% proper. And, for a horse that costs as much money as he did, that's kind of a surprise in that, right? This is a $2.3 million purchase who paddles in his front left. But there are other horses who have across history have been very effective with that kind of style. How long they stay healthy and sound is another story. But Sierra Leone's action in the front left, his kind of lean in the stretch, we'll see if it rears its head again. It has in almost every single one of his starts. If you're betting him, you're hoping he's clear of the issue or he clears up the issue, right? He's clear of the other competition when he actually does it, like he did at Keeneland in the Bluegrass. But if he's right next to another horse coming down the stretch, you can almost wince and just say, please stay straight, please stay straight. And maybe Pratt makes a difference. Maybe the bit in the horse's mouth makes a difference. That's what you're looking for with Sierra Leone. But from what we've seen on video and the way he's trained since the Kentucky Derby, this is a horse who's pointed for this race for 5 weeks, and he looks like he's coming up to it excellently. Now, he would be the first runner-up in the Kentucky Derby to come back and win the Belmont Stakes since Empire Maker all the way back in 2003. So it was a taxing race in the Kentucky Derby, and a good second in the Kentucky Derby can knock a horse out. We'll see. He looks like he's coming back to this race pretty good, though. I would suspect he's going to run his race.
I do. And Jeremy, this horse, as you pointed out, brought $2.3 million at Saratoga as yearling. What would have happened if they had waited at the 2-year-old sale? And he breathes like that. Whoa!
Right.
Toss him off the list,
Yeah.
But he obviously walked well. But walking, in the walk when they're looking at him as yearlings, and then when they breeze him in the sale, sometimes you don't get what you think you're going to get.
Yeah. Tabor, Magner, and Smith, the owners there, $2.3 million is like what they find in their car seats. So for them, not a major outlay, I should say, of money. Let's talk next about the Kentucky Derby winner, Mystic Dan, who was second in the Preakness Stakes. He's going to try to become the first horse, other than the Triple Crown winners, to go through all 3 legs of the series of the Triple Crown and win the Belmont since a Fleet Alex back in 2005. It's been a long time. Now, of course, our Triple Crown winners, American Pharaoh and Justify, were able to run in all 3 legs of the Triple Crown and be successful here at Belmont. But he's done a lot of work of late. Let's see how he looks in the morning. Mystic Dan working here in company with Gould's Gold. They couple golden cents going at it here in the morning for trainer Kenny McPeak. McPeak had tinkered around with the idea of Torpedo Anna running in this race if Mystic Dan wasn't up to snuff. She instead is going to go to the Acorn because he likes what he sees from his Derby winner, Mystic Dan. Jeff, do you like what you see?
Yeah, he's fine. He's not always a horse that showcases himself in the morning. You don't have to work horses like this fast. They're fast. You just want to do enough to keep him fit without overdoing it. And, the way he's doing it here, he's being grabbed here and just kind of slowed down at the end. He's traveling well. I don't think that I can knock the work at all. He looks like he's held his form, which is good. We don't see too many colts anymore, unless they're going for the Triple Crown, participate. And I'm not, as you pointed out, I wasn't probably in the game plan necessarily to run 3 times on all 3 races in the Triple Crown, but held his form. Now it's just a matter of whether he'll perform in the afternoon. That really is still up in the air. The fact that he worked well is great, but it doesn't really tell you if he's going to react, with all this activity he's had. So, in the last 5 weeks. So I don't know. I mean, he's not my main play. I could see him run well, but I could also see him not run well. You know what I'm saying? I'm much more confident, really, with Sierra Leone that he will run well, and actually the same can be said for me on Mindframe.
With Mystic Dan, you're looking at a situation too. That he's in the 9th race of his form cycle. He debuted last year and never had a winter. He went straight through. There was no winter break. This horse was running through late November into January. I mean, there's no break in his form. And in today's racing, 9 races in a form cycle is an eternity. Yeah. And at some point you think, okay, there's going to be a peel back, and you would think it probably comes after this race. Will he have enough in the tank before this race is over? And there's a lot of the campaign still left. I see why they're running. It makes sense. He's in good form. He came back and validated his Derby form, the solid effort in the Preakness Stakes, where the winner just kind of, didn't come back to him at all. I would expect he's going to run a pretty good race, but I would expect that to be slightly less than his Derby. If the Derby was 100 for him and the Preakness was a 90, I could see him running an 80, and not in speed figure terms, just like in his ability. 80%. I think he'll run 80% of his best on Saturday. How good is that? 80% stacking up against the rest in the field. I think that's what you have to evaluate when you look at the Kentucky Derby winner, Mystic Dan. So that's a look at a couple key workouts here, and we'll also get a look at some other workers and some of our other topics as we go down the scroll here. To our third topic this week on It's Official, our Belmont Stakes preview. We're going to try to project the pace of the race. They always say pace makes the race. How will this Belmont Stakes shake out with a field of 10? Here are my pace projections from left to right. The horses in the speed category expected to go to the front. They include the 1 Seize the Gray and the 10 Mindframe, the bookends of the field. Sometimes when the 1 and the 10 and the outside horse in a race both have early speed, they both go a little faster than you might expect on paper, because one wants to get out and hold position, the other one wants to clear the competition and gain position, and sometimes that can ratchet up the pace a little bit if one or both won't come off the throttle. In between those two in post number 6 is Dornoch, who his best races have all been near the front. I've got to think their experiment of taking Dornoch off the pace is just going to be thrown out the window. I think he's going to try to get up into this pace. He had some trouble at the start of the Kentucky Derby, which kept him from doing so. I think there's 3 that can go to the front in here, Jeff. The Pressing Flight, the Wine Steward, and Antiquarian. I don't think either fast enough if they want to try to get up to the front amongst the others. They would really be on a sellout mission to get to the front, I think. Then the horses in the middle of the pack, Mystic Dan, Protective, Resilience, horses that you expect to get first run on the deep closers. And then there's 2 obvious closers in this race, Sierra Leone and Honor Marie. They've run together twice. Both times that they've run, Honor Marie's been behind Sierra Leone down the backstretch. So I think that's probably to be expected again, where Sierra Leone will be in front of Honor Marie amongst the closers. Those 2 are going to have to pass them all to win the Belmont Stakes. Can they do it with the pace scenario as I see it and as you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the pace has a chance to be a little faster than we both expect, only because I think they're going to sell out with Seize the Gray. He's been on the pace in his last 2 races, and from the rail, you don't take him back, and you try to make the running and maybe do what he did last time. Then you've got Dornoch. You mentioned that he better be on or near the lead, because he doesn't run well. He's not. And then you've got the Colt on the outside, Mindframe, who could be on the lead, but they're not going to sell out. They don't have to.
Right.
But from the 10 hole, all Irad has to do is, and he's got a great spot, which is why I said I loved his draw. He can look over to his left and assess the situation. And the thing about Mindframe is, he's so impressive to me, and I'll tell you why, Jeremy. Because in his first race, he sat 4th on the outside, made this rush into a 44 and 2.5. He must have put in a sub 22 flat second half, circled the pack and won going away. But he went 44 2 to the half. His next race over a rotted ground, they slowed him up to 49. How many two start maidens or 3-year-olds can you get him to go 44 2 and then 49 in the second time in the second race? And he did it like he would drive on a Tesla. I mean, just so easy. He didn't pull. He didn't rank. He was taking orders and accepting them. He relaxed on the lead. He is so versatile in terms of pace. He can go fast. He can go slow. Nothing bothers him in his first 2 races. And because he's outside, I think Irad knows that I can sit. I can slow him down and just drive a car here. And when I want him to go, he'll explode. So I don't think he'll be part of the pace, but I think he's going to be in a lovely spot, especially since he will not have to worry about any kickback.
Dornoch to his inside, he's in the 10, Dornoch's the 6, and then, of course, sees the gray all the way down on the rail. If Dornoch goes and Irad looks left and sees Dornoch going with the front runner, that's the best scenario for them, right? I mean, let someone else keep Seize the Gray company, because we saw in the Preakness Stakes, Seize the Gray on the lead is not a horse you just want to hand it to. He ran legitimate fractions at Pimlico and didn't come back to him. It was in the slop. We might get the slop again on Saturday. If you bet Saratoga at any point in your lifetime in July and August, you know it rains a thunderstorm every day around 3, 4 o'clock. It seems like it pours there. In June, the forecast is for rain again. So if we get a sloppy track and they don't go hard at Seize the Gray, might we see a replay from Pimlico?
Seize the Gray, turning for home in front. Mystic Dan confronts him, catching Freedom, now right behind and swinging to the outside. Seize the Gray is still there. Mystic Dan bearing down on the outside. Seize the Gray won't go away. Mystic Dan catching Freedom, moving down the center of the track. But Wade Lucas has got it. Seize the Gray wins the Preakness.
So Seize the Gray gave us the upset win in the Preakness Stakes. I think he was like sixth wagering choice, something like that, in the field in Baltimore. Could we be in store for another price in the Belmont? This hasn't been a race where there have been big bombs of late. The favorites have run first or second, I think, in this last 7 or 8 Belmont Stakes. Arcangelo gave us a decent number last year, but we expect the favorites to run their race in the Belmont Stakes. If history's any indicator, this is a little bit different Belmont. We're not going a mile and a half. It's not Big Sandy, but it's still that same spacing, and it's still the final jewel in the Triple Crown. But Jeff, let's look for a price, because that's what we do, right? I mean, we don't want to be settling, especially in the exotics, for a couple favorites. We can't take Sierra Leone in mind frame 1-2. We've got to find ourselves a little bit of a price. Who are you looking for in terms of a number?
Well, I actually looked at Antiquarian because he strikes me as a horse that will really like 1.25 miles. He would have really liked 1.5 miles. He's got he's kind of a grinder. He doesn't have a lot of big moves in him, just like Preservationist was more of a grinding, a high class grinder. But I think 1.25 miles, Antiquarian has a chance here. And if I were Johnny V, I would put him in the race pretty early, because he doesn't have the ability to come from way out. But if he's like sitting 4th or 5th and there's a collapse up front, I'm pretty confident Antiquarian will stay on 1.25 miles. He might be able to inherit the lead and then hang on. I mean, or maybe not, but at least I think he'll be in the second flight behind the leaders. He's got enough speed to be there, and if he's aggressively ridden out of the gate, he's not going to outrun these speed horses, but he's going to be where he needs to be. And it's kind of the same kind of handicapping that you use with Resilience in the Derby. And boy, I liked your chances at the top of the stretch. Couldn't get the trip, but you projected where he needed to be to win, and he was right there. He wasn't good enough, but hey, what do you want? But the thing is, I think Antiquarian's going to be a big price. Even if he doesn't win, maybe he grinds it out and hits the board and makes the try worthwhile. So, he's listed at 12-1 in the morning line. I don't think he'll go any lower than that. Let's put it that way. He might go a little higher. He's the forgotten Pletcher, So I'm going to throw him in underneath somewhere.
Pletcher Velasquez, a horse who can run all day, 12-1. Can't argue with that number at all. I'm going to give Honor Marie also at 12-1, my long shot price look in this particular spot. Again, I think he's going to be last down the backstretch. He's going to need the pace to come back some, but he had a tough trip in the Kentucky Derby. Honor Marie's a horse who got bounced around at the start, sent wide. The horse came on the clubhouse turnabout, took him out. Everything about that race was difficult start to finish for Honor Marie, and he was still pretty respectable in there. When you look at the final running line in there, 8th beaten 13 lengths in the 20-horse field. I thought it was a pretty decent effort under Ben Curtis, jockey who doesn't have a lot of experience on the dirt here in the U.S. Now they make the jockey change the Florent Giroux, a horse who's actually worked him a couple times in the mornings. And this horse is training well. He trained well before the Kentucky Derby, and he was kind of that talked-up horse going into the Derby. And with a clean trip, he may have run a little bit better. He's by Honor Code, a horse who's run well, obviously, at Saratoga in his day. And I think there's a lot to like about Honor Marie in this spot if the pace will set up for him. Let's go and talk to trainer Whit Beckman here, courtesy of Jenny Reese with the Kentucky HBPA and their YouTube channel. I thought an interesting interview after their workout the other morning. So let's take a listen in here, a little bit over a minute with Whit Beckman.
Yeah, Flo loved it. I loved it. Ready to roll. I know this horse, like coming out of the Derby, he's had a couple really good works into there. He's just feeling so good. He's fresh. Like, yeah, we're in a great spot with him in his fitness, just his cycle of things.
How long were you thinking about the Belmont after the Derby? I mean, how long did it take to think, or were you always
I'd say
thinking?
after his like 4th day of training, we just kind of said, you know what, this horse definitely isn't any worse for the wear. He didn't really get, I think, the opportunity to really set down for the run the whole way around. He caused so much trouble in the Derby. So, whatever reason, he came out of that race better than he went into it. So, when it's the sun shines, make hay. So we're going to take full advantage of how he's feeling, and he's ready to do it.
Does it work in your favor that the Belmont's a mile and a quarter this year versus a mile and a half?
No, I think either way. I mean, I was happy to run the horse a mile and a half if that was the case, but we get another crack at a mile and a quarter against some of the same horses, and I think, with a better trip, he's, going to be a legit contender.
You've wanted to get Flo on this horse before.
Yeah, we
And
had
now
him,
you have
breezing the horse before the Louisiana Derby and just before some spots, and he, if things didn't work out with some of his other stables, then, he would have been on, but at the end of the day, this is hopefully the right time to get him on.
That's Whit Beckman, trainer of Honor Marie, the 8-horse in Saturday's Belmont Stakes, 12-1. This is one I'm going to be using in my exotics, and I considered on the win end even, Jeff. I feel there's a little Mo Donegal in this horse, a very similar trip in the Kentucky Derby, then take the time off, come back, and with the 5 weeks, maybe this is the one who goes from Derby to Belmont in that 5-week layoff and really moves forward off of it. Mo Donegal, of course, won this race a couple of years ago for Todd Pletcher. But I didn't take him on top. He's going last to first, and that's a lot to ask because if you think this race sets up for a closer, why aren't you on Sierra Leone, right? I mean, if you think it's going to come back to a closer, there's been no more consistent and reliable closer in this class than Sierra Leone, dating all the way back to last year.
Yeah, I wasn't high on him in the Derby. I'm not high on him again, but usually if I have an opinion about a horse, I might be right 6 or 7 times about him, and then the 8th time is when he beats me. So I'm not throwing anybody out here. And again, he's going to need a pace meltdown, which there may be as good a chance of that happening as there is that it'll be a slow pace. So you'll know if you like Honor Marie and if you're playing in any in the exotics or even on top. I think you'll know by the clubhouse train whether or not you have a fighting chance with your play because. He is going to be pace dependent, but that might be a good thing.
And so those are the price horses. Now let's just get to the bottom line. And the winner is of the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga, Mr. Jeff Siegel. Who are you taking?
Mindframe. Although I did say earlier that I would probably think that Sierra Leone would have a better chance of winning, but also Mindframe is going to be a slightly better price. But I looked at Mindframe. I look at I'm not sure how good he is yet because he's won a maiden and an allowance race, but he's very fast, very tractable. He can press a fast pace or a slow pace, and he doesn't pull, doesn't do anything wrong. His last race, I don't even think they intended to go to the front, but nobody else went, and Mindframe probably said, I'll go. Nobody wants to go. I'll go. And went off quickly and broke really well, by the way, which is important for me because I don't want a horse that's perpetually slow out of the gate. And then made the lead, kind of switched off. And boy, when he was asked to quicken at the 3/16 pole, it was bye-bye. And he just blew me away. And now this is his 3rd start. I think he'll go the mile and a quarter.
Right.
I like him. And if I can get close to the morning line at 7-2, I'll be happy.
Mindframe won on the Kentucky Derby Day undercard, so he understands a little bit of the pomp and circumstance of going into a big race day. It wasn't quite as crowded at Churchill Downs at like 11:30 noon when he ran on Kentucky Derby morning, but he'll get a sense of the big time and the hullabaloo in the paddock at Saratoga for the Belmont Stakes. Let's go back to that Derby morning allowance win for Mindframe, Jeff's top pick in this year's Belmont.
By the quarter pole in control. Higgins' boat is set down for the drive, but Mindframe is too, and Mindframe with an instant response kicks away by 4 and now by 5 past the final furlong marker. Mindframe, high gear for the final furlong. Cornishman's trying to run up into second inside of Higgins' boat, but it is all Mindframe and a masterful front-running ride from Murad Ortiz Jr. Cornishman did get second. Higgins' boat was third. Anthem King fourth.
We don't know what he's beaten yet. Cornishman, the runner-up, and they're a really well-bred Godolphin for Brad Cox, who's been pretty well thought of. He's been a little bit of an underachiever, but that's the best horse he's faced in those first 2 starts. He's going to get the big test against some of the top horses in the class. But, Jeff, when you watch that race from Mindframe, you can't help but see the talent. I mean, there's an obvious talent ability there. And like you said, 44 and change first start, 49 and change in that race. And instead of being wrangled and wrestled and kind of throwing a fit and saying, I'm not going to finish up, you saw what he did finishing up in the lane there. He looks like he could have a higher ceiling than anybody in this particular race.
I think so. And the one thing about, I wanted to also point something out. He didn't gallop out at all. And a lot of handicappers would say, well, that's not a good sign. Mm-hmm. Mindframe's the kind of coach, well, if he takes his cue, if the jock pulls him up, he says, you want to, oh, okay, I'll stop. You know, I don't have to gallop out. You don't want me to gallop out? I won't gallop out. You know, and he does that. And that's why it was a hard horse for me to evaluate before he ever ran, because we had several works on XPTV about him, and he never looked like he was working that fast. Mm-hmm. But he never was asked, and he probably figured, you want me to work fast? I won't work fast, you know. Right. He goes out and wins by 13, you know. So that's the kind of horse he is. Not only is he incredibly well-bred and all that, and fast when he needs to be, but he looks like a horse that's run 100 times because he knows the drill. He really does. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that anything's going to bother him, which is why I expect him to go out and win his race.
3-1, 7-2, somewhere in that area. That's kind of the price I'm thinking for him. What about you?
I would like to get that. Yeah. I don't know. See, I like him a lot, and I'm afraid that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to think like I'm thinking, which is nice, flattering, but it doesn't help the taste of it. You know?
Yeah, right.
So, but I have more confidence in him because of the fact that I think he's not going to have to worry about getting dirt in his face. He's going to go out and run his race, which, in my opinion, based on buyer numbers, he's the fastest horse in the race. Mm. So it's not like he has to do something. See, last year I really liked Arcangelo after the Peter Pan, but recognizing he still had to go out and improve. Mm-hmm. I'm not even so sure Mindframe has to improve. Now he has to prove he can run against these horses. Right. He's already, based on speed figures, he's already good enough, and he's done it from off the pace, on the pace, sprinting, routing. I don't, if ever a horse is ready to take the next step, it's him.
Yeah, he's in the right spot. This is the spot to see what you've got with him, and they're going to find out here in his third career start. I'm definitely afraid of him. I think his best race probably wins this and could look like an Arrogate in the Travers Stakes back when he launched against everyone back in August of Arrogate 2016-ish, something like that. Phenomenal run that he had from that point forward. I'm also afraid, though, of Sierra Leone because I know his rallying style could get a setup in this particular race. I know he's got the classiest running lines in the field, but he's a shorter price. I don't know what's going to happen with the rider change, the change of the bit, if it's going to straighten out what he's going to do. But I'm afraid what he's going to do in the stretch, and I don't want to take a short price there. So for my top pick, and we haven't really talked about him much other than mentioning he looked like he might be a winner at the top of the stretch of the Derby. I'm going to go with a little reluctance here. I'll tell you that. You're confident in your pick. I'm not confident, but I'm going to get a price to find out if Resilience can finally have his day. This is an impeccably well-bred colt with a ton of turf-side stamina on the pedigree. I love trainer Bill Mott originally saying we're not going to the Belmont. Now all of a sudden he's going to the Belmont because he loves the way his horse is going. It's a confident move, a change of pace, a change of tactics in here with the ultimate respect for Mott. He just blows away Bill Al, who was a nice a winner earlier this year in Kentucky. Gallops out like a monster in this particular spot. Bill Al's coming back in a race, I believe, on Saturday on the undercard. But Resilience training exceptionally well. You've got the Hall of Famer Belmont. I've liked this horse all year. I like him coming into the year. I'm going to give him one last dance, Jeff, because I think we're going to get a price to see if he can't pull the upset in the Belmont Stakes. Resilience and David Aragona's morning line is 10-1. I think he's going to be every bit of that. I don't think he's going to go below that number. I think he'll be a very solid 8, 10, 12-1 in that area. There's just too many other options the public are going to fall to, with the Derby and Preakness winners probably taking a little bit more cash than maybe their win probabilities will tell you, because they are the Derby and Preakness winners, and we know they're going to bet the two favorites in this spot, Sierra Leone and Mindframe. I think Resilience is going to be left go at a little bit of a price. He's going to get you up out of your seat at some point, like I've always said with this horse. He's going to get you up out of your seat, and you're going to say, I think he's got him. I think he's got him, and we're going to see if he can get the mile and a quarter. I don't think he's a pure mile and a quarter horse. Junior Alvarado's got a tough riding assignment because he's got to wait. He's got to wait to make that move when he's got the shot, and then maybe bust the race open at the right time. I'm going to take my chance because I think we're going to get a price with Resilience.
Well, even if he doesn't win, if he runs second, that's not bad either. You know?
Right.
I mean, so you can make money with that colt Resilience, even if he doesn't win. As long as he runs as well as you think he's capable of running, it's not like you have to have him win to make any money.
Right.
You know, at that price, hook him up somewhere.
Right, and I would definitely hook him up with the two favorites. Again,
Yeah.
like there's respect and fear for those two favorites. So if we can get him in there. Also, Honor Marie's the other one I'm going to be using it on my tickets there. Probably more on the underneath side. I think Resilience can win. Honor Marie can be underneath. So those four are going to be in my mix. I'm going to get rid of the Derby and Preakness winners in terms of my gambling in this race. If they run third or fourth, so be it. I'll be attacking win and exactas in this particular spot. And if I'm going multi-race wagers, I'm going 3 deep. I'm going to use Resilience and the two favorites, and I might get a couple tickets with Honor Marie in there as well, just in case. But I'm looking basically at those three when it looks at the multi-race wagers.
It's a very good gambling race. You can take there are a lot of, and several of these you can make a case for, and you can like them and hope like the one that you like. It's just a really interesting. Belmont, obviously, the factor in the Saratoga element in the mile and a quarter. It's a legitimate race, and it's a very important race on the road to an Eclipse Award, because right now in this division there's no real standout. There are, I think the good ones aren't running; they've been turned out or stopped on. And then, but however, if you win this race and you're thinking you got a leg up on the championship honors for the 3-year-olds this year, got some bad news for you. It looks like there's a good chance the City of Troy is going to come over and run in the Travers now.
Wow.
So that would be kind of interesting. The
Epsom Derby winner from last week.
The Epsom Derby winner who was so impressive after the race. Aidan O'Brien said it's the best. He's won a race. I think he won that race 10 times now. He says this is the best colt that he's ever had in the 10 that won the Epsom Derby, because he's bred for dirt. They want the lads, as they say, as he calls them, the owners, might come over for the Travers, and then he'll be in the Breeders' Cup. So the second half of the year for 3-year-olds in the States going to be pretty interesting if that happens. But this is an important part of the resume. If you can win this Belmont, especially if you won one of the other races, then that's the goal, the year-end goal. So good race to win, and a very important race on the road to the end of the year.
Leave you with one stat here for the Belmont Stakes. This is the 7th time, 7 times previously since 1990, where the Derby and the Preakness winner met up in the Belmont Stakes. The Derby winner has yet to win in one of those matchups. The Preakness winner owns 4 victories. 3 times the horse who won was a horse who was not amongst the first 2 Triple Crown race winners. So we'll see. Will it be a fresh face? Will it be one of the Derby winner, Preakness winner, Mystic Dan sees the gray, or somebody else? We're going to find out on Saturday, right around 7 o'clock, just before 7 o'clock. Live coverage on Fox, of course, of this year's Belmont Stakes. You can get all your information you need to get ready for the Belmont Stakes with our first Belmont wager guide. Check that out, news.first.com, and click on the links towards the Wager Guide. You can also access it through ExpressBet as well. Handicappers across the First family, all with their analysis and picks. We've got stats. We've got artificial intelligence, win projections for all of the undercard races. Plenty of action. Millie Ball also looking at the Acorn Stakes on Friday, which features Torpedo Anna and her rival, Just FYI, the 1-2 finishers from the Kentucky Oaks. See how Millie shakes out the Acorn on Friday's card. That's also part of the Belmont Stakes Wager Guide. Be sure to download that and check it out. And on behalf of everybody with First and my partner Jeff Siegel, I'm Jeremy Plonk. Good luck in the Belmont Stakes. And if you're following along in the Wager Guide, be sure to access all the information and share us out on social media so others can come check it out as well. Take care, everybody, and good luck.